I will again thank everybody for taking a little bit of your time this morning to chat with us here on our health industry roundtable. And the first thing I'd like to do is just have everybody go around and give a brief introduction of yourself, a little bit of background, and tell us a little bit about your company. And Eric, I don't know where you're positioned in everybody else's screen, but you're top left in mine, so you get the honor of kicking us off. So,
oh, great, no problem. I've only had my second cup of coffee, so hopefully this goes pretty well. No, thanks again for having me. I'm Eric Mayer. I'm the CEO at EDP Biotech here in Knoxville, which stands for Early Detection Products. We are traditionally a cancer diagnostics company, developing and designing novel blood tests for early detection of colorectal cancer. During this COVID pandemic, though, in our clinical lab, we've been able to help out the community and address the pandemic response through doing testing, both on individuals throughout the community. We do testing for schools and local companies, and we also do contract testing for other healthcare and life science companies here in the area. My background, I came to Knoxville about 10 years ago. I come from Research Triangle Park, North Carolina originally. I've got a technical science background in microbiology, biochemistry, as well as business administration. Have really enjoyed my time here in East Tennessee, set up roots, have started a family, have bought a beautiful home, and really enjoying living in this part of the country. So again, thanks for having me. We're excited to be part of this community.
Okay, thanks, Eric, for that intro. Dr. Williams.
Hi, Jim Williams. I'm the CEO of Siemens Molecular Imaging. We're about a 1.5 billion company, part of the greater Siemens world. And we do two things, really. We build diagnostic scanners, so positron emission tomographs, single photon emission computed tomographs, PET and SPECT systems for short, for primary indications for those. For instance, for PET, it's really staging and understanding the treatment effectiveness of in cancer. Also, coming up really quickly is the diagnosis of amyloid plaque in the brain for Alzheimer's disease, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of that in the news recently with therapies coming out. And on the second side of the business, we're a radiopharmaceutical producer. And what that means is we have around the country about 45 radio pharmacies, each equipped with 1 or 2 cyclotrons that start up really late at night, start making activity, and we synthesize tracers for PET, for positron emission tomography, and deliver them all out through the country. Probably about a half to 2/3 of the supply of the country is made through our pharmacies. And that's a very different business than the equipment business, because your product is basically obsolete by the time 12 hours after you make it, because of the half-life of radiopharmaceuticals. So it's really a just-in-time kind of production versus a more heavy equipment, capital equipment business that we have for the scanners. I've been here in Knoxville for about 8 years. Previously, I was living in Germany for about 7 years before that, building angiographic systems. And I live out here in West Knoxville in Farragut, and really enjoy it. It was actually nice to come back to the U.S., to a place with this much natural beauty, and it's actually something that attracts a lot of people to come down here. And we have people from all over the world who, come to Knoxville for 6 months and are still here 20 years later.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. We hear that story often, and there, you're right. Knoxville is red hot right now with people relocating into our market. We need to find more homes for people to live in. Is a major issue we have right now. So, good morning, John Shanahan. How are you doing?
I'm good. And yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and ionogen.
Ionogen is a relatively new company. We started about 3 years ago. We're in the Bearden area. We sit up on Bearden Park Circle right behind the cathedral. It's a company that's kind of biomedical health organization. We design and build the broadest range of generators that produce hypochlorous acid. For those of you who may or may not know it, it's the sister chlorine solution to bleach, but it's 80 to 200 times more effective than bleach, and it's non-toxic, non-harmful to humans. Like Dr. Williams, we share a common relationship with Siemens. Siemens is the automation company that runs all of the machinery that we build here. We were just very honored recently to have Siemens put out quite an extensive case study on us. Our technology for them is automation based. It comes out of Johnson City. And we're very honored to have them and their support and their wonderful guidance in what we do. We've pioneered probably the most both controversial yet cutting edge technology to deal with this recent pandemic. As we hear constantly about variants and shifts and changes of what's all going on, one of the things that we pioneered pre-COVID was the ability to hydrolyze hypochlorous into the air in a gentle fog or a vapor. We did extensive testing with third-party labs on both efficacy and then on safety. On the efficacy side, we've been able to document that if you took a person who sneezed and you had 33 million times the viral load in the air, our technology can take the COVID virus completely out of the air at 95.7%. And then on surfaces, it can kill on surfaces both bacteria and viruses to 99.9%. What's unique about it is it's extremely low cost. It's very efficacious. We're guided here by 7 doctors from around the area, one out of New York. Dr. Birgine Overholt is my business partner. Many people here know who Dr. Overholt is. And we have 7 different physicians, pulmonologists, internists, ENTs that guide us. And that led us to do cytotoxicity testing to ensure that breathing our solution over a long period of time, 24 hours, had no oxidative stress on live human cell tissues. And in fact, the lab that did the work rated us, quote, safe as air. They were a little puzzled why we even tested, but we said it was something that we should really know. So we've built sort of our brand out primarily around this space, although we make products for use on animals and food and a broad range of things, all primarily hypochlorous based. I'm with Dr. Williams. I'm so happy to live in Knoxville. As you can all tell by the way I speak, I am not a native. I am originally from Milwaukee. My wife, Lisa, and I moved here about 3.5 years ago when we started the company. And Doug, I'm doing my part to help with the housing problem. My wife and I live on a great big Chris Craft boat at Volunteer Landing. So I'm freeing up a house for somebody else who wants to come here and buy a house. But we love the downtown area, love the city. It's remarkable and all the people that are here. So honored to get the call.
Thank you, John. We recently deployed the world's first autonomous water taxi right down the dock from your houseboat, I believe, at Volunteer Landing. So that was a pretty exciting day for Knoxville. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and DeRoyal.
Absolutely. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for DeRoyal. I've been here 25 years. I am a native East Tennessean. I grew up in Morristown and I went to college at the University of Tennessee for both my undergrad and graduate studies. And DeRoyal is a medical device manufacturing company. We are headquartered in Powell, Tennessee, but we're a global organization with facilities in 5 states and 4 countries, mainly the Latin America area. And we produce medical devices ranging from orthopedic soft goods to acute care, hospital disposable products to wound care, negative pressure wound therapy products and programs to OEM original equipment manufacturers like plastics and textiles. We are a privately held industry. We've been in business for 48 years, and we have about 2,000 employees worldwide.
Thank you very much for that intro. Just out of curiosity, have you guys all met before, just bumping into each other in Knoxville, or is this are you all meeting some new people here on our digital platform?
This is my first time to meet everyone.
Eric and I know each other. We're virtually neighbors.
Okay.
Yeah. I was about to say, John, I think you were over in this seat just a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
But I haven't met Dr.
you
Williams
for
or Rebecca before. It's nice to meet you both.
Good to meet
You
you
as
both.
well.
guys.
And Jim, you started to say something I didn't catch.
Or just say this is also they're all new to me, so.
Well, great. That's part of why we're doing this is we are hearing loud and clear from existing businesses in Knoxville that they like these opportunities to interact at this level, to have these kind of candid discussions. So thanks for the introductions, everybody.
I think from a healthcare industry in general, and my mind goes to hospitals and primary physicians. I think they have been in a fight or flight process for really the last 12 to 18 months. I think we had a ramp up of what to do. How could they prepare? How could they fight this pandemic very, very quickly? And they had a large ramp up to figure out what to do. I think the last maybe 4 to 5 months has been somewhat of a getting back to a new normal. And now that we're seeing the Delta variant really start to impact East Tennessee, it's now a ramp back up. How that impacts DeRoyal. Early on, 18 months ago, we certainly from a medical device manufacturing company, we're an essential employer. We did not shut down services. We, in fact, hired 60 more people and started manufacturing some PPE that was not in our current product lineup just to service our customers. That worked in our favor, certainly, because a lot of elective surgeries were put on hold, which did impact our acute care division. Certainly our orthopedic division, people weren't out and about in sporting activities and events. So this was a different way to generate revenue when our typical avenues were going down. What we're seeing now is they had that ramp up. They sort of created a new normal, and now it's a ramp up again with the Delta variant, and we are starting to see elective surgeries to halt. And that again is impacting production and devices and things of that nature. I also think just from a primary healthcare perspective, telemedicine was a huge interaction for our employees during the COVID pandemic timeframe. And now I hear a lot from our employees, it's very difficult for them to even get appointments that they will call if they are feeling unwell, and it's months before they can see just their primary healthcare physician. And that becomes very stressful and very discouraging from an employee perspective. And that really, from my perspective, is where I'm seeing healthcare industry at this point. They are dealing with a lot of difficulty, but from a user perspective, it's also very frustrating.
I agree. Anybody else have anything they want to add to that kind of big picture state of the health industry? I mean, I'm assuming everybody on the panel this morning was labeled an essential company, and so production continued throughout the pandemic. There was no shutdowns, maybe slowdowns a little bit, but any other thoughts on the big picture state of the health industry?
Yeah, I would offer this. I think Rebecca's spot on. In there is almost a level of emotional exhaustion and fatigue with our frontline medical workers. I've been doing a month-long study with one of the local pediatric clinics here, and we were guided into that by their chief medical officer, who said, look, two interesting things happened during last year's portion of the pandemic. The parents were the first ones to pull away from going to the pediatric well checks and things like this. They just stopped taking their children. And the last of, this happens to be one of the largest clinics here in East Tennessee, the last people to come back to healthcare were parents. They stayed away from the pediatric hospital or clinics exams for a long time, and they were just afraid that the doctors were potentially the problem. And the duress that I think our healthcare workers are feeling is partly because we've got a lot of heavy regulatory stuff, but there is no new answers being given to healthcare or even education for how to sanitize the environments that they work in. The narrative continues from the EPA, take a rag and a trigger bottle and go and disinfect the surface, when in fact, Dr. Fauci and every other expert says it's up here in the air. But the regulatory side, the EPA side, is not facilitating any new narratives about air sanitation. As a matter of fact, they haven't upgraded that standard since the Clinton administration was seated, and it causes a great deal of duress, because if you know that the air is the problem and you are a healthcare worker, and you know that sick people potentially either carrying COVID or other things are coming to you, it puts you in a position of concern. At this particular clinic, one of the oddities that they're dealing with is they're seeing the highest cases of RSV in children ever in years. And the challenge they're faced with is that RSV should not be around in July and August. This is a fall illness, and the doctors are kind of puzzled why they're seeing this in such high quantity. On the flip side of that, it's not directly human medicine, but in animal medicine, there is the worst case, or the worst, largest outbreak of kennel cough in dogs. And the veterinarians are puzzled as to why it's so high and why it's spreading like crazy. So there's some oddities in that we're seeing. Kennel cough, like COVID, is an airborne virus. And so there's no new real thinking other than to have a rag and a spray bottle from the regulatory bodies. People are struggling because there's just no new data out there.
Okay, I have kind of an unusual one. Part of our business is really electricity intensive. So our installation in Rockford operates at about a continuous load of 3 megawatts. Because we do some very fundamental material processing there of things that need to be heated to about 2000 C. So it's a lot of electric heating of really high temperature furnaces that you got to keep running 24/7. One of the issues that we have as a global company, we get asked by our customers about our carbon footprint. What does it take? How much, what is the carbon footprint of a device that you're providing to us? Because these are, it's becoming a regulated aspect of medical devices in a lot of places, especially the capital equipment. What kind of energy did it take? Where did the energy come from?
Right.
And that's something that where, I would say in Knoxville, we could, we use several power companies here, KUB, Maryville Power, being able to purchase for a reasonable price carbon-free power would be very important to us. And we know it's going to be over the next 20 years, something we're going to have to probably transition completely over to. Might not also be bad for the air quality of the valley here on top of that. So if you want to start like another nuclear project, we're right behind you. So
very good. And that's really interesting perspective. I mean, being a high demand power user, particularly with the load factor that you guys have, we're running 24/7 to keep that energy going is critical. And I know, whether you're Maryville Power or LCUB or KUB, the power is all created by TVA. They're the generator, and then the local distributors are selling. That's where you're buying your power from. And TVA's made a lot of strides in shifting from coal fired to nuclear, to wind, to green, and I think you'll see that trend continuing. But that's a really interesting perspective that your customers are demanding that. We're starting to hear a little bit more of that, but that's
yeah, a lot of our customers are national health services too,
right?
And they're in their plans for carbon footprint for their nations, they have requirements on purchasing of large expensive devices for your infrastructure.
Yeah,
that's what leads to the carbon restrictions.
Absolutely. So power, green energy, where's the power coming from, reducing carbon footprint, other things that from a regional standpoint that kind of jump out at you.
Yeah, Doug, for sure. I think that the two areas where, especially what we would consider more of sort of a nascent life science industry. So, healthcare is very established. As Rebecca mentioned, the primary care and the specialists and sort of the brick and mortar hospitals, that's all fairly well established. The medical device industry, fairly well established with DeRoyal, Siemens, et cetera. For the sort of more the startup in life sciences, I've seen a deliberate push here in East Tennessee to really spur on that entrepreneurial spirit, get more technologies transferred out of UTK and out of Oak Ridge into the hands of entrepreneurs that can then commercialize those technologies. And I think that this pandemic has spurred a lot of innovation as well. That said, what we're starting to see now is more of the workforce development, training, especially even early years of, K through 12 biostem education. I think that is extremely important for the future of this industry here in East Tennessee, as well as access to early and middle stage capital for companies that are in that R&D space that may have 5 or 10 year startup cycles before they can actually go through, to John's point, go through all the regulatory hurdles and get a finished good on the market, whether that's a new drug or a new therapeutic or a new biologic or even a new diagnostic. So I think that there's still some work that can be done, especially related to the life science focus here in East Tennessee. And it's really great to see that has begun over the last couple of years. It's been very refreshing and I think encouraging to see that during the pandemic the last year. There's been a lot of intense focus on helping these companies bring those new innovations to market here. Obviously, as everyone said earlier, the healthcare industry is pretty stressed right now and pretty frustrated and fatigued. But I think the community has really rallied around those that are trying to do good during this amount of time and really helped bring new things to light and really helped companies, all of us here on the call and other healthcare companies in this region, helped us help the community back.
Good stuff. And the entrepreneurial ecosystem, I think, is as strong as it's been in this region. And I mean, there's always room to do things better and different and look at things that way. But it's definitely trending in the right direction. And Eric, you mentioned access to mid-stage capital, and at 8:30 this morning, the chamber had a webinar on. We rolled out our access to capital strategy. So that's something that the chamber team here has been working on over the past several months. Kind of help inventory what's there, where are the weaknesses, where are the gaps, and so these things don't happen overnight. But it's nice to hear you say that, and it's nice to know that the chamber team here has people that are waking up every morning thinking about that. So I will, as a follow-up, send everybody on this Zoom a link to that strategy. So if you need some good bedtime reading, that'll give
I've already downloaded it.
Oh, great. Very good. Very good. Other key things. Anything else, John or Rebecca, that from a regional standpoint?
I'll touch on this. I think this may wind up being a question, Doug, is really resources. I think we are going to see some turnover in the healthcare industry just because of the emotional and physical toll that this pandemic has occurred. So I think you're going to see somewhat of a turnover and a shortfall of replacement positions for nurses and healthcare providers. So as Eric mentioned, I think early on education in healthcare, exposure to what this career path is for nurses, for LPNs, RNs, specialists, the entire gamut of positions, I think is going to be key. I also feel, just from our perspectives on the call, we are looking for workers as well, whether that's manufacturing components or just hands-on to do the work. And the education that from a skilled labor force, manufacturing is no longer just true assembly. It's a very highly automated process that takes a very skilled labor force to run computers and vision systems and sonic welders and a lot of things that produce parts. It's no longer just boxing and sorting and material handling and manufacturing. So I think we're going to see, we already are seeing labor shortages for skilled labor. So I think you're going to see that not only in the specific healthcare industry, but also the manufacturing producers within medical device and healthcare. Just all of our services is going to see some shortfall. So education is going to be key going forward to have the resources we need in this area to service the current business we have. And we are all in growth mode. We are adding a new business to our organization that's completely automated and struggling to find labor to do that. And we all want to continue to grow in this area. We've all mentioned how wonderful it is to be here in this area. It's an attraction for sure. But we've got to retain our employees that are here versus moving on and going to different areas. And I think that's an area that the Chamber can certainly help us with. And all the different avenues that people have for career paths in this area.
Doug, I'd like to build on that. I've gotten to have a very close relationship with Mayor Jacobs, and recently at a business forum for Senator Hagerty, he was advocating quite strongly for our technical school here in Knoxville. And don't get me wrong, I have a son at UT, and UT is a great school, and it's a great institution. But there are lots of career paths beyond a 4-year degree. And we had gotten into a little bit of a cycle in this country that we just simply said, high school, go to 4-year college, run up a big debt. Not everybody is going to use that education. And to Mayor Jacobs' point, when we have a strong advocacy that you can have a great life working for a company like DeRoyal or EDP or Siemens or us, and have a technical skill that you can take with you and not have $180,000 in debt and transfer that, I think it's really incumbent of the Chamber to work closely with Mayor Jacobs, because we got a little bit sideways in this country. I'm 60 years old, and where we said if you didn't have a college degree, you just didn't matter. And that was wrong. And we goofed up a workforce in our nation and put a lot of people in debt. And the technical school here is exceptional. I've gone over there a few times, the work that they do, and especially for, we're a mere ant compared to DeRoyal or even to EDP, and certainly to Siemens. But, we bring in, we have an electrical engineer that works for us, does not have a college degree. He went to school to be a marine mechanic. He designs 90% of our electrical systems and our control systems here in the company. And he's a savant. He's probably one of the brightest electronics people I've ever met in my entire life. And we need to encourage that kind of thing, because if these folks can see that there's a positive business path and that they can be part of a company over a long period of time, the community prospers. I think very often the high schools are directing everybody over to UT. And please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying UT is not a wonderful school. It's a great school if that's what you need to have. But we too often forget to say, we still love you here as an employer. If you just bring us a technical skill, there's a great value for that. So I would absolutely support everything Rebecca's saying. And the mayor's a great supporter of this, and we need to have his voice clearly heard in our community on the value of that school over there.
Yeah, I can't say enough about the community colleges, whether it's Pellissippi State, Roane State, Walter State, the TCATs, the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology. They're really stepping up their game, putting together fast path training, weekend academies to push more people through those training, to get those certificates, to get those certifications. And couldn't agree. We need to make sure we're retaining the graduates that come to the University of Tennessee in this region. And we're doing things to address that as a chamber. But we also need to working with the local K through 12 public school systems and the private schools around the area to encourage them that the trades are amazing, and you can graduate in a couple years or less sometimes, and make good money and have zero debt and stay around. And all of you probably have jobs. I bet everybody on this call has job openings right now that you're trying to fill.
We're continuing to develop out a relationship with schools and medical facilities. Some of the recent testing we've done has indicated some remarkable results in surface remediation, what we call bioburden management. And as we build that forward, we'll look to partner with some strategic companies, and we're investigating some things right now in the wound care industry, because hypochlorous has been found to have a remarkable advantage over saline. So we're looking and seeking to work with some partner companies, because we wouldn't necessarily vend into that, but we're taking that market very seriously as we look 24 months down the road.
Thank you. Rebecca, what about DeRoyal? What's coming down the road for you all?
So we have some exciting things coming to play. We are starting the 1st of 2022, a brand new facility here at our Powell campus. We'll be hiring 24 additional employees for a very highly automated manufacturing process. And we're continuing to look at growth. We have a strong push from our customers to evaluate America's made product. So America's as in the US and Latin America's countries. So we're continuing to evaluate, how we can better serve our customers from that perspective, and really just continue to sustain our labor market and create a organization and environment where our employees are proud to work for an organization within this area and the areas where we are located. Be a strong community partner and leader within the area.
Great. That's exciting stuff. Thank you. Jim, how about you? What's down the road for Siemens?
Well, we got some immediate stuff. We're finishing up a big capital remodeling project in our facility in Dutchtown. So it's about a $20 million project that hopefully, given the availability of equipment and other things in the pandemic, we get done by January or February. So we should be able to reopen as a beautiful new facility, because that was looking all of 1979 on the inside when we tore it apart. It was not a good scene. But more importantly, the thing that is really central for us right now is that and we see a few more Alzheimer's therapies coming down in phase 3 trial right now, and our technology and what we do is very central to be able to stage and diagnose patients to see if they're candidates for the therapy. We manufacture the 2 tracers for Lilly that allow you to look at both amyloid plaque and what is also called tau tangles in the brain. And PET scanners are really the only reliable way to, at the moment, determine if a patient's a candidate. So this is something that we're ramping up for, and we're really excited about, because if the hypothesis works, we can help a lot of people.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And Eric?
Yeah, it's been very exciting for EDP in the last year. We've doubled in size. We're going to double again by the end of this year, and we're undergoing an institutional capital raise right now to double again in 2022. We're always looking to expand our clinical testing in the CLIA lab with medical technologists, and even bring on some more specimen collectors, phlebotomists, CNAs, RNs, etc. And then on the R&D side, bringing in more hands in the lab. The goal here, of course, is that as COVID ramps down, some of the technologies that we've been able to work with over the last year, we've brought in some new instrumentation, some new analytical methodology. We were going to be working in CRISPR technology, which is kind of the hot, sexy new thing for medicine in the first place. And we'll be some of the first here in East Tennessee to be able to utilize these new technologies and apply them from right now infectious disease, but begin to move back into oncology, which is where really our core competency has always rested. So we're excited about the growth opportunities. We're excited to get back into helping cancer patients and or detecting tumors earlier and precancerous lesions when patient outcomes are the best. And that's really where we want to be, is closer to the patient. And in diagnostics in general, we are seeing things move closer to the patient with point of care testing and at-home testing. And so we are going to be actively moving those directions and have already made some headway towards at-home testing. And that's really where the future is. People want to be in control of their own medical information. People want to be in control of their own personal health decisions and their own personal health behaviors. The pandemic has proven that loud and clear. And new tools, new diagnostics, new medical innovations will enable that to happen.
Very good. Well, I've been asking all the questions. Does anybody have any questions for me? It's kind of a dangerous thing to do as a moderator, but
Nope.
okay.
Great. Thank you, Doug.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for taking your time. The health sector is certainly growing. We're seeing a lot of activity from it, both expansions and business attraction projects in this sphere. So we really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your expertise with us. And like I said, I've got a couple follow-up things that I will send out to the entire panel here. And with that, I will again say thank you. And please don't hesitate to contact us at the Chamber if you ever have any questions or comments or things that you think we might be able to assist with. So I really enjoyed today's discussion, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.